Okay, we're back.
It's us again. I'm Chio. I use she, her pronouns.
And I am Mulch. I use they, them pronouns, and we are
and collectively, we are the Thinking Man's Weebs.
I still don't approve of that name, but yes. So we're watching all of the new season shows, and
we're doing first impressions of them.
Yes, and we're starting with ID Invaded.
Yes, we are starting with ID Invaded.
So what did you
which
said?
Is a double length episode. I think it's either 1 and 2 episodes.
They released the first 2 episodes together.
Yeah, but they released it as a weird clump.
Yeah. What did you say that ID actually means? Because
it means id invaded.
I mean, what does that mean though? Because I would have thought of it being as identity.
They might actually come from the same term. I don't know. But anyway, there's this Freudian concept of the ego, the super ego, and the id. I can't remember what exactly they are, and they're not
But I remember it being dumb.
Oh yeah, it's dumb. It's more of a philosophical concept than an actual physical thing.
Yeah.
Basically, I think I can't remember but the id is basically the unconscious.
Yeah. Fun and cool.
Yeah. The ego is the perception of self or whatever, and
yeah, so let's go into the episode. So
it's pretty wild.
It's pretty I'm gonna be real, it's not better than I thought it would be, but it's a lot more fun than I thought it would be.
Yeah. I mean, it was better than I thought it would be, probably.
I mean, okay, just production value and how much sense anything made was about what I expected from the PV.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect it to be balls to the walls, wild enough for me to really have fun with it.
Well, it's kind of a weird show that we've been trying to articulate, because it's both very freakish and weird, but at the same time, the actual substance of the show, the characters, the plot, what happens inside it, is really derivative.
Yeah.
So it's both extremely cliched, but also weird and freakish.
Yeah, it definitely has its own energy.
It's got big dick energy, and it's swinging said dick around in a helicopter motion.
Yeah, that's a really good descriptor actually. But fudge. But it quotes a lot of other stuff, and it takes a lot of stuff from other stuff in ways that don't make any sense, but it still does that.
Yeah.
But then it has its own energy.
It's very much it's very rooted in the styles of the sci-fi psychological thriller. It's very it's definitely a serial killer type story.
Yeah. So that's kind of our feelings about it, but let's go into what
should we go through the plot point by point.
Yeah.
So oddly enough, the only parts that were in the CV, I mean not the CV, the PV were in the very beginning.
Which I think is decent for PV. I don't think they should give away too much.
Yeah. Though it did make the show look
worse.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I'm not sure what it could show from this that would make it look good.
Nothing.
Because the production is garbage. That's the first thing that anybody's gonna notice about this thing. It looks cheap as hell.
Yeah.
It begins with this weird sort of psychedelic sequence where it's dots, and you zoom in to a square, and then you zoom into that and you see particles, and it just goes on and on for over a minute, and then there's this flash of light. All of that imagery looks like it could have been it looks like it could have been pre-made. It all looked like something that could be from a set of assets, pre-made assets, just to be used.
Yeah.
That you could buy a package of and just toss them together.
Yeah.
That's the level of production we're talking about. So it begins with the main character lying in bed in like this fragmented world where all of the rooms are kind of in chunks and floating around.
Yep.
And his body breaks open.
Yeah, and he does freak out about that, as I feel like that's a realistic reaction.
Yeah. Like his body breaks off. It's not, I'm making it sound like gory. It's not gory. It's like his body is made out of like, it's very bloodless. Like his body is made out of these individual chunks.
Yeah. And they're like, you know, they've got like blue fuzzy, you know.
It's like he's an avatar and his avatar broke.
Which is
apart.
basically what he is. Like,
yeah. But, and it actually, one of the better moments is when you've got he's shouting, but it's overlapped with his internal monologue also shouting. And they both have different tones of voice. Like his body is freaking out, but his mind is kind of cool-headed.
God. So he is as like obnoxious as I thought he would be, where he's like, "Oh, I'm the brilliant detective," but actually, it's really funny.
Yeah, I actually like him as a character.
Yeah,
I think he's fun.
Like I thought that would be obnoxious as hell to me, but like,
well, one of the really good ideas in the show, jumping ahead, is that he's been dumped into sort of like a scenario, and anybody who goes into this scenario is playing the role of the genius detective.
Well, I didn't think that exactly. I
mean, it's kind of implied that you go in there, it's a murder mystery setup, and whoever is whoever goes in is the detective. Not everybody's equally good at it.
Yeah, but that's not the impression I got. I got the impression that that's just his persona when he goes in there. Like, that's all his own triggers and all of his own, like...
I think that's partially the case, but there were other characters that were talking about it.
Like, I
from
think,
the perspective of anybody could,
anyone with murderous intent or whatever. Go.
Anybody. Basically, the requirement to go into this world is that you've killed somebody.
Yeah.
And anybody can go in there, and every person who goes into the well is playing the detective.
But the thing is, I that's not the impression I got. I don't think. Like, I think everyone would have their own...
the line was, it takes a certain degree of genius to be the detective in this world, or something, which indicated to me that...
Well, I guess we'll see when they put anyone else in there. I
don't think they will be. I
kind of
Or maybe they will.
Yeah.
If you can't tell from us arguing, it's not always entirely clear what's going on.
It is complete nonsense.
There are lines in this show that are totally incoherent.
So they can't do much exposition with a character without any memories in, like, the dreamscapes or whatever, or the murderous intent.
I forgot to say that.
Like, they can only do so much exposition with that, but once they get outside of the dream bubble...
Non-stop exposition.
So it's non-stop exposition, and it is absolute fucking nonsense.
It's a bunch of buzzwords clumped together.
It's literally, it's not just that the, like, pseudoscience doesn't make any sense. Like, I would have expected that. It's like actually incomprehensible.
Yeah, there are some lines where it's like, dude, I kind of get the idea of what you were trying to say, but what you just said did not make sense. We're going to go into some of those lines in detail later, but I think we should try and go through it chronologically to make this as, like, we should try to be less confusing than this show. So he literally pulls himself together.
Yeah.
As in, he, like...
sticks all his legs back on and stuff.
Yeah, he finds out that his limbs still he's still able to control his limbs, even when they're not attached to him any longer. So he literally grabs his hand, starts grabbing bits and pieces of his, like, avatar, and just sort of shoving them back together.
He gets himself back together, except for one arm, which
more or less. I mean, the arm... He can still use that arm, but there's, like, a chunk where his elbow should be.
But
I just hit the microphone. Oops.
Yeah, but the reason why he still has his arm is so that he can use it as a harpoon or a grappling gun, which is, just what you use any, like, broken apart
arm. I like
arm
that a lot.
It was pretty fun. Fun.
And he starts, like... He sees a pair of legs dangling over the edge of a room above him. So he throws out his hand and pulls that down and connects it to his
he
other.
politely shoves her legs back up on the platform first so he doesn't like crush them when he puts the pieces of the world back together.
Yeah.
It's very, very polite.
And when he walks into that room, he finds that the reason why she didn't respond when he shouted out to her
is she is very dead.
Yeah, she is a straight up knife sticking out of her chest, blood everywhere. And he finds that he knows her name, even though he does not know her.
So he remembers her name, and that triggers the like him remembering his name, which I don't think is his real name, but it's Persona's name. And
I think it's like Psychoto.
Yeah. I
think it might actually be his real name.
So
I can't remember though.
But
we actually see very little of him outside of this persona.
Yeah. So he sees the girl is the trigger for him to remember his name and remember that he is the brilliant detective, and that's all he knows about himself.
Yes, and he's got to like solve the mystery of how she's died.
Yeah, and I did actually find it kind of interesting that like it's not just him figuring out the murder. Like the people who are observing the dream bubble thing are like, so this is supposed to be the killer's psyche or whatever. So they're like
the killer's id will.
Yeah, so they're like looking through and like seeing the small details of the reality and like taking those down.
Yeah,
like,
they're looking around. Oh, the books on the bookshelf are real books. Anything rare we can track the killer by?
Yeah.
No, there are just some that are out of print.
Yeah, and I did find that interesting. Even though
the thing is that none of the characters in the lab outside. None of the characters in the lab are actual characters.
No.
They're just tools for exposition.
Yes.
And this is also when it really sinks in how bad the character designs are.
Oh, God. I mean, like, you just have to look at, like, the main character and know...
They look like somebody was trying to draw generic anime-type characters, but didn't have the technical skill to pull it off properly. They all look a little off-model all the time.
The character designs are bad.
Like, there's one guy with silver hair whose hair looks like a butt. Like, did you notice that? His hair looks like a butt.
I did not.
I'll point it out to you.
Yeah.
After we're done.
But, like, God, it's... Okay, so it's funnier... The main character is funnier when you realize that he's basically this other guy's, like, persona, or, like... That's just how he views himself, I guess.
Yeah.
And, you know, I also, I guess, if I was creating myself, would view myself with bad hair, a like, scarf that moves in the wind that's the non-existent wind.
And
his like,
scarf moves
he's
in
got,
the
like,
wind, his hair doesn't.
He's, like, got, like, a vest that goes down to his knees under his, like, detective's coat and, like, really poofy pants. I just need to fully take in all of the things that are going on with that character design.
It's real ugly.
God.
And, so the first piece of, like, solid information the people in the lab who are unnamed, they don't have names.
Yeah.
Actually find is that they find a face reflected off of something. And they're like, oh, that's John Walker.
Yeah.
It's actually probably the best designed character.
Which is...
yeah. Because he's really, like, creepy looking. His face is all blurred out, and he's wearing, like, this weird Victorian top hat and getup.
Yeah.
Quite disconcerting. They don't tell us more about John Walker at that point, though. They're just like, oh shit, this guy's had contact with this guy as well.
Yeah. God, all of the exposition is just...
It's nonstop exposition.
It's nonstop. It's so nonsense. Like, I'm used to, like, pseudoscience exposition stuff being nonsense, but just not...
bad.
This is, like, on a whole nother level.
This is, like... Okay, we should explain what this world is.
God, I don't want to.
Quote, it is a quote, unquote, idwell, which is made up from, let me pull up the quote. It's bad.
It's like particles of murderous intent.
Cognition particles found at the scene of the crime.
Which can apparently be blown around by the wind, because that makes sense.
Yeah, they're like, cognitive particles are apparently like physical things
my God.
in this world. Basically, it's I think constructed by this machine called the Wakumusubi, which apparently
none of it matters. None of it makes sense.
And record murderous intent, cognitive particles caused by murderous intent, which is like it's
you know,
seriously stupid.
And like once they've got this, it actively updates to whoever it's the like current murderous intent, even though it's apparently physical enough particles to be blown by the wind. But it continues to update as they find more murderous intent.
And it's like really detailed. Oh my god. I can't believe a murderous intent is like a physical thing in this show.
I just want to ignore all, like, honestly, I just had to like glaze a lot of that out and just have fun with it. Like, because it's fun. It's like it is fun. I had fun. Yeah. And I was interested. Yeah. I do hope it gets more wild and stops repeating itself so much.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then he starts putting he realizes that the room anyway, he realizes his role is to solve Sakaido realizes that his role as the genius detective is to solve the Kairu's murder.
Uh-huh.
And so he looks around the room and he sees that it's a locked room. It's a room locked from the inside. The windows are locked.
Yeah.
And so he starts to construct the house that it's in.
So one thing I did like about the like crime solving is that he's not really solving the case. He's basically giving them clues so that they can solve the case in the real world. Like once he finds the murderer, like he solves the case in the dream bubble. That doesn't do anything. He can't do anything with that.
He can't, like, there is no justice inside of the Idwell.
Yeah.
There is no police, there's no handcuffs.
And that's, I did actually like that, despite, like, all of the other characters not being characters. Like, that, I don't know, I just find that interesting.
Yeah, especially since the murder is not a replica of the murder that the person themselves committed.
Yeah.
It's murder that will reveal something, that's intended to reveal something about the murderer's psyche.
Yeah.
So anyway, he finds in another room of the house a bunch of other fragmented people who are apparently living there as a family and don't really have a will of their own.
Yeah, I mean, every part of this world is a part of the killer's brain or whatever.
Yeah.
Like none of them, there's no independent entities.
Yeah, except for him. Except for Sakaido, the person who entered.
Yeah.
They're basically just fixtures in this world.
Uh-huh.
And they're all identified as either... I think...
So they were
5 of the 7 were people were
past victims, and 2 of them had disappeared, and maybe 1 of them was alive, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, they're people that either the killer has murdered or intends to murder.
Yeah. So there are a lot of these avatars or like avatars of people, and
they're more like moving furniture.
Yeah.
Or talking furniture.
Yeah.
They're not they're part of the landscape.
Yeah. And while this is going on, the real world investigation is going on and stuff.
He throws the world together and it puts out a clue that to the location of where the killer is.
Yeah.
And 2 real world agents go to investigate.
Yeah. And that's the standard, like, rookie and older grizzled cop combination.
Yeah, it's I think the root of this character combination is basically Clarice Starling and Jack What's-His-Face from Silence of the Lambs.
I mean,
that sort of
that
duo.
may be the original inspiration, but I feel like it's an active insult to Silence of the Lambs to make that comparison.
Yeah, they're much worse and less interesting.
I don't think you should even talk about them in the same sentence. Like,
well,
okay,
I feel like it's worth pointing that out as a source of inspiration, because we know this person has consumed we know this writer
there
was
like a quote there was like a quote from Silence of the Lambs, or like,
and by quote we mean a scene that replicates a scene from Silence of the Lambs.
The whole body swap thing. So we get to hear some I think they're also inspired by Psychopaths. I mean, Psychopaths would be the obvious and immediate inspiration for something like this. Which is much better production, much better production, and much more boring.
I mean, the actual overall plot line of this, where there's a machine that can track murderous intent or figure out when somebody's going to go murder somebody else, is very similar to Psychopaths.
Yeah.
And so the fact that this, the main girl in this is pretty similar to Akane's Tsunemori, I think that's definitely, like, would indicate.
Yeah. God. Oh, God, the exposition is just so bad. They have more exposition, then they get the location and head out there, and then the old cop, and then they're like, oh, we have to, no, that's fine.
Okay. Sorry, a thing popped up on the computer screen.
Yeah. So, fuck, shit. What were we saying? So they go to the location. They figure out that the killer is somewhere or whatever.
Based off of basically, the main character inside of the dream makes some words. And they can tell from the way that the words are slanted that it's a restaurant sign seen from a certain angle.
Yeah. God.
That's not really the interesting part.
So the rookie's like, oh, we gotta go in and save them, and the old cop is like, you stay. No, we're not. And then she's like, but they could die. And then the old cop is like, yeah, that's why I brought this illegal gun, and I'm gonna go in, but you stay here. And then they do that.
Basically, the machine that detects murderous intent goes wild, and because there's one person there that they're not sure that might still be alive.
So this cop pulls out this illegal gun.
Basically, they're not allowed to carry revolvers. He's got one on him anyway. He doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, and then he goes in to, like, deal with this situation, and then he's absolutely useless. And then the other cops come in, and then the dude. Basically,
what happens is that they find what they think is a body or an injured body that's lying face down in a pool
and it's
of blood.
The killer. And so they take him in the ambulance. And
they shoot this other guy that is wearing the killer's clothing and is carrying a drill.
Has like a drill.
Did we mention
taped
that
to his
this
hand.
Killer drills?
Oh yeah, so in the dream,
by drilling.
So in the dreamscape, the girl is stabbed, like, and they immediately say, well, that's not how he kills. He drills holes into people's head. Isn't that a thing with this writer? Like,
oh yeah, I figured we'd talk about that after we finish, like, discussing what happens in this.
So,
like, discuss the context around of it, talk more about its connection to Psychopaths and this writer's other works.
Okay, so old guy's useless, then body swapped guy in the ambulance kills everybody and, like, kidnaps the rookie, obviously.
Think, like, it's very Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
The scene in the ambulance is basically that scene in Silence of the Lambs with Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah. So all that happens. God. So and what they do to find this kid, I mean, adult woman.
Basically, they only figure out that she's gone missing after she pops up inside of the dreamscape.
Oh no, they figured out she'd gone missing way before then, but
no, I don't think they did. Like,
oh well, they found out that he had her then, but I thought, okay, maybe
it's somewhat odd because she pops up in the dreamscape and there's a flashback.
Oh yeah,
everybody in the lab freaks out, and then there's a flashback to her getting hit with the ambulance.
Yeah. And then yeah, she's kidnapped. There was she made some interesting choices.
She for most of this, she hasn't been a real character.
Yeah.
Where, like, basically all of the characters, except for Saikaido, inside of the Dreamscape, have been tools for exposition.
Yeah.
This is the scene where she becomes an actual character.
Yeah.
Basically, Killer's got her strapped down to I think it was an industrial fridge.
Something like that.
Yeah, stainless steel industrial fridge. And he's got this drill that he's threatening her with. He's holding it. He's drawn an X on her forehead where he plans to drill down. Yeah. And he's got it. And he's basically telling her, hey, give me information or I'm going to drill a hole in your head.
There were some weird design choices with that villain. Like, he has the hole in his head, but then he has a burn scar.
But he's also got, like, a giant burn scar
and
over
he's, like, half
of
bald
his face.
And, like, X's on his bald head.
Yeah, carved X's into the bald side of his head.
It's just...
And he's got, like, a handsome guy voice, which is funny.
He's got... God. So...
Basically, she's like, hey, motherfucker. She basically drives her head into the drill bit.
Yeah, she like gets some information or something first, and then like, okay. So here's the thing. So apparently, intent to commit suicide is picked up on the fucking machines.
The Mukusubi apparently considers intent to kill yourself, intent to kill.
Yep. So she slams her head into this drill, and then
which creates a new idwell
where they like pick it up and then take the main character out of the murderer's thing and throw him into the suicide one, and so they can get like little bits of information from that and go save her.
I actually like the suicide world because it was very odd.
Yeah.
It's basically just because she's so single-mindedly focused on the drill bit at this point, it's basically just a barren landscape.
Yeah.
Covered in like drill bits of different sizes.
Yeah.
And there's one tree in the middle and Kaoru is hanging from that tree, her ankles tied together.
Yeah. With
a note next to her shoes that says, just says, this is suicide.
Yeah.
And then a drill bit slams, crushing the protagonists.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the tree and all of the characters.
Yep. And they find her by that with like all of these little details in the landscape.
Yeah. Apparently there's a lot of information just reflected from her viewpoint onto the drill bit.
Yeah. And so they save the now lobotomized main girl.
She has a hole in her brain. She literally got lobotomized.
Yeah.
The interesting thing being, I think she's still the main character. She's just the main character who now has a hole in her brain.
Yeah, yeah. So they do that. Okay, talk about the whole thing now with the author.
Well, I want to do that a little bit because I want to talk more about John Walker.
We can do that after. I want to hear about the whole thing.
Later. I'm gonna cock tease you a little bit.
Never say that to me again.
Also, we're very close to death.
Okay. So, so the
before he goes into the new suicide idwell, he has a confrontation.
Oh my god, I love it. I love this part.
This is another one of the good parts of the episode. Basically, the figure that they saw reflected, John Walker shows up, and all of the id people, except for Saikaido, freak out and start like huddling in a corner.
Yeah. So this like big bad, the guy who's gonna be the big bad super villain or whatever, Avatar.
Yeah, I think what it's going to be is basically like episodic murder mysteries with an overarching plot line that's going to lead up to finding out who John Walker is.
Yeah. And
what he is. He's got the blurred face. He shows up, he's jumping everywhere, he terrifies all of the id people.
Yeah, okay, but the main guy, I want to say this first. The main guy, so this like scary motherfucker is coming at them, and all them are looking. And all of the like other people are God, are
just
cowering,
like huddling in a corner.
And then the main guy is like, well, like in a really pretentious way, is like, well, I don't like to fight, but I guess I found out about myself that I will if backed into a corner. And then he punches this guy, and the guy just like
collapses
goes straight
like
down.
a ragdoll.
And then he's like, wow, I guess I'm just gonna accept that I'm really OP. And then he's like, victory!
He makes he throws out his arm and the victory symbol. He does this all like really deadpan.
Yeah, which is great. Which is just...
It's my favorite character moment in the entire show for him.
God. Yeah, that's my favorite scene overall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, John Walker.
Yeah.
Big bad villain.
Yeah. Apparently, and then they do more exposition-y stuff where apparently John Walker has shown up in the minds of like 5 different serial killers or something.
Yeah.
And he shows up in their id, and they're pretty... At first they thought he might be just like another function of the scenario, the same way Kaoru is.
Yeah.
But the reaction of the id people to him was so strong and so out of character for this type of thing that they're now pretty sure he's a real person.
Yeah.
Who like lurks in the subconscious of serial killers.
You know, he's a Moriarty. Moriarty?
Like Moriarty.
Like patron. I mean, you know, I'm sure he's...
Yeah, he's, they called him, I think, John Walker, the serial killer maker, a person who can, quote, manipulate
he's a fucking
unconscious.
He's a fucking Moriarty.
Yeah, and that's basically the plot summary.
Yeah. Holes.
Okay, so the thing with the drill bit, this, the writer of this anime, I can't remember his name, but anyway, he has about 2 pieces of prose work published in England. One is a novel called A Sewer Girl. The other is a short story that was briefly published in Foss magazine called Drill Hole in the Brain.
Yeah.
So, like, for him, apparently people getting holes drilled into their brains is like an obsession with him.
And the villain was all like, the breeze feels so nice through my head hole.
It makes me feel a little bit better every time like the breeze goes through one end of the hole through the other.
God, there are actually, I remember, there are actually some people who drilled a little bit into their heads to make themselves kind of permanently high. I wonder if this has anything to do with that.
I mean, it seems like it's like the wrong part of their brain.
Oh yeah, no. It's complete nonsense. But
yeah,
but that was a real thing.
Yeah, Drill Hole to the Brain is actually pretty good short story. I think. It's basically about this kid whose mom's lover like goes on a rampage and murders his like entire family, and he manages to fight him off and kill him, but the guy sticks like an electric drill through the side of his brain.
Yeah.
And so he's just him lying on the floor, like seeing like weird hallucinations and like going crazier and crazier with just like this piece of like vibrating metal stuck in his brain.
Christ.
It's very visceral and disturbing.
Yeah. Man. Okay, is there anything else we want to say on this one?
Maybe we should talk a little more about Psychopaths.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Also, I want to read out the incoherent sentence.
Oh, please start with that. So these are direct quotes from the show.
Speaking of the serial killer, that's called in the show the Perforator, his drive to kill is fragmented, yet he kills by drilling. Does that incongruence mean something? Like, that's a sentence that's totally fucking incoherent.
God. Okay, what?
Like, his drive to kill is fragmented, yet he kills by drilling? Does this incongruence mean something?
It's just complete nonsense.
I think what the writer's trying to say is that, like if you want serial killer isn't that into killing.
If you want to have a good time with this, you have to accept that none of it makes any fucking sense.
Yeah, I think what they're trying to say is that the killer isn't actually that into killing. Because when she slams... when the main girl, I can't remember what her name is, when she slams her head into the drill bit, the serial killer thanks her and says, "Man, I've been killing people this entire time. I've drilled into so many brains. But it turns out what I wanted all along was to see somebody drill a hole in their own brain."
God. Yeah, keep going. Give us more.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
A description of the Idwell is a world formed from the drive to kill. Cognition particles found at the scene of the
Jesus
crime.
fucking Christ.
Intent to kill is at the root, the impulse portion of things. Basically, the desire to kill people is by nature an impulse.
I don't know, man.
There's also there's that long explanation of the term Idwell.
No, it's just complete fucking like again,
there's that bit where like the main girl talks about, oh yeah, sometimes cognitive particles are swept in different directions by the wind.
So this show is like a roller coaster that's like fun, but also like the beams, like half of them are broken, so you're like noticing that like half of them are broken while you're on the roller coaster.
Yeah. Oh man. You just have to accept that none of it makes sense. We should talk about, even though this show like registered as being very strange, a lot of it was extremely derivative.
Yeah.
For instance, the premise owes a lot to like a bunch of different sci-fi stories, but I think like the big one is Psycho-Pass.
Yeah.
And the two, you mentioned that the cop and the grizzled veteran and the rookie bared like a strong resemblance to some of the characters from Psycho-Pass.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the main girl's basically Akane Tsunemori. And the guy's what's his face?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember what his name is either. But
I will say this, while Psycho-Pass was in many ways better, I dropped Psycho-Pass after one episode, and I've watched twice as much of this, and I still don't feel like dropping it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because at its heart, Psycho-Pass is not weird, and I don't think it has the capacity for weirdness.
Yeah.
All of the ideas in the first episode were pretty rote. Whereas in this, I just have a lot of emotions about this. Like anger and joy and let's see, what are all the things this made me feel? Confusion, annoyance,
glee,
probably a bit of annoyance.
Like that's just too many emotions to give up. You just got to know what's going on.
Yeah. And we did mention the scenes that are very Silence of the Lambs. The dreamscapes are feel very Inception inspired.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me a bit of Paprika, or the way the device is supposed to work.
Yeah, and the like persona of like the dream persona is very Paprika. But then again, we are comparing this to things that are like leagues and leagues above it in quality.
Oh yeah, like comparing the production to Psycho-Pass, which I think is like the closest in quality to anything. It's like comparing two different universes.
Yeah.
The production in Psycho-Pass is like so much better than this.
Yeah. And it's not even the best. Psycho-Pass,
I mean, it's pretty strong.
Yeah, but like
the technological designs.
Yeah. God. Okay,
but the ending of this episode was very strange. So I'm hoping it's going to like drop all of the quotations.
Yeah.
Like quit borrowing so heavily from other sources and go in its own weird directions. Because while I wouldn't say that the non-derivative material was good, it was certainly a lot more interesting.
Yeah. What's your recommendation? Like, do you think people should watch this?
I think people are going to watch it whether I ask them to or not.
I mean, but we are like giving first impressions and suggestions or whatever.
I mean, if what we just described sounds appealing to you,
then
yes, go watch it.
I think if I was not doing this project, I still would have had fun with this show.
Yeah, I would still be watching this, probably.
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely not something I'm gonna be forgetting anytime soon.
Yeah. Yeah, anything else?
No.
Okay.
No, nothing else.
This has been the Thinking Man's Weebs. That's the first time I've said that title on this podcast. Gee, okay. The beginning of the end.
This was the Thinking Man's Weebs, giving our first impressions of Id Invaded.
Yep.
We're out.